Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Sportsman Marine. Sportsman Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have Atco, Pelagic, and Saltwater Fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vexus lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. Also, if you're looking for a street legal electric golf cart, go check out their Patric golf carts. Sportsman Marine on Highway 98, and they also have a downtown location next to Mr. Jean's Beans in Fairhope, Alabama. And also brought to you by KillerDock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rotten table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit KillerDock.com to see more. And also, United Bank. United Bank knows what an important role agriculture plays in our local economy. At United Bank, they are here to support local farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness, including real loans for farmland, equipment loans, working lines of credit, and more. Truth is, they deeply value the contributions agriculture makes to our communities, and they help our local farmers build successful businesses. They want to see you succeed. Learn more at unitedbank.com or stop by any United Bank branch. United Bank, all loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC. All right, folks, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. I am joined today with co-host Captain Richard Rutland. I'm Butch Thierry. How we doing today, Cap?
Shoot, if I was any better, I'd be looking as good as you do.
Oh, man.
Especially in the flesh today. I
Come
like
on
this.
Now. I know. We haven't seen each other in a while.
I know.
Busy,
I'm looking forward to it.
Been getting up to the farm some, doing some work up there, getting my hands dirty, feeling like an old man. Really make your back ache whenever you dig a trench all day one day.
Oh, that's how I feel too. I'm about to sell one of my contenders, and I've been buffing and waxing and doing a little bit of gel coat sanding, this, that, the other. I get home like, oh God, you don't ever feel it the day up, but the next day you're like, golly,
elbow grease.
I know I'm not even 40 yet, and I'm complaining like I'm old, you know.
I know it. I don't know what it's going to feel like when 60, 65 rolls around.
Yeah.
It's going to be to grease the joints a little bit.
Yep, have to ask Captain Bobby some of his tips.
That's right. Huh? Sucker's still going. He can work all of us under the table.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you that. He's just like my dad.
He got that.
Don't ever stop.
He got that daggone Avriscato energy, man. I don't know where they get it from. Every one of them's like that.
Balls to the wall.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Well, what you up to, man?
Oh man, just
crazy weather.
It has been. The weather's been a little nuts. Very typical springtime. We'll usually have some
Alabama springtime. How about that?
Yeah, but just for our area, the weather's been fairly typical. You know, you have some really pretty days in between these fronts, and then you get a front like what we had last night and stirs everything up. Heck, it was blowing like 20 plus knots all day yesterday out of the southeast. Everybody I talked to, just about nobody went out that I could tell. And then you turn around, you get like completely different wind direction today, and the tide's way up, and so you just have these conditions that are kind of all over the place, so fishing wise, I just been trying to kind of look for some consistency, and that's sometimes hard to find. I think we're going to hear about that a little bit in some of our reports. I know with the inshore report, when we get a positive pad on, I'm gonna talk about the inconsistency of some of the fishing and whatnot. But there are some things that are really consistent. Sheephead and redfish have been real consistent, but speckled trout, not so much. Been a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, talking about these swings and all, I mean, golly, I can't imagine being a fish right now. It's hard enough for us up here.
I know.
They don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, they're as confused as all of our listeners. Like,
right. What do we do? Where do we go?
Heck, I'm right there with them some days too, man. It's tough, but like I said, that's typical transition phase, where you have some days of some really good success. You go back a couple days later or the next day, and it's like poof, they're gone. Where'd they go? And you start scratching your head and like, yeah, man. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to get the reports today and see how everybody's faring.
That's right. I wanted to tell this story. I think it was not this past Monday, but the Monday before last. I had a podcast listener, Steve Calthrop, with us. He's the owner of Jesse's over in Bon Secour or
nice.
Magnolia River. Took them fishing. We had like one of the struggle kind of on the struggle bus, but of course we had like water that was 2 feet low all day too, and from one of the north wind. But I had a first happen to me. We were fishing down in Grand Bay, and I walked to the back of the boat to check on something or get a wind knot out of somebody's line or something. And I was looking down next to the edge of the boat, and I saw a fish right next to the boat, and I was like, "What the heck is that?" And I saw it kind of roll a couple more times, and I looked down there. There's a speckled trout sitting next to the boat, and I reached down with my hand and grab a legal speckled trout out of the water, like nothing wrong with him or whatever, perfectly fine, and threw that joker in the box. That was like, I think we only caught about like 4 or 5 keepers that day. Wow. So kind of helped make the box, but that was definitely a first for me.
Outlier.
I just reached in the water with my hand and caught a fish. I feel like that's what some people probably think I just do on a normal basis, but
right. Whisper them up, call them up.
Yep.
That's funny.
I had some other guys. I had one of the fellas that owns a slick lure on the boat with me the other day, and we were fishing around Point of Pines down in Bama Battery, and we heard some guys shooting guns down there the other day, and we heard a handful of bullets whiz by our head like I was in the movies, like go by us. Oh yeah. We hit the deck and got out of there.
I would say so.
That was another first. So 2 firsts in 1 week. Caught a fish with my bare hands and got shot at for the first time in my life.
I think I would much rather the first situation.
Oh my goodness gracious! It absolutely it scared me. We had a kid, like a teenager on the boat. And
did you have a change of underwear with you?
No, I didn't. But I might have
could have used it.
Yeah.
Lord, that's not fun.
No, it wasn't at all. So I don't know who that was or what was going on down there, but we got the heck out of there.
Rather not stick around and find out.
No,
for
sir.
Sure.
No, sir. And I'm sure as a lot of our listeners are probably seeing on social media and just from word of mouth, we've had a fish kill. Yeah. Which we'll kind of probably try to wait to get into with Patric Garmeson in a little while. But
yeah, it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts. I know you've been talking to some people down there that are smarter than we are about it. So
yeah.
Be interested to hear about that. Yeah, I've seen some and they all seem to be about the same size and just seems kind of odd.
Yeah, it does. I'm not going to be terribly worried about it just because kind of what we were talking about before we jumped on here. It's kind of a cyclical thing, every year, sometime in the spring, we usually have a fish kill. And I can't really tell you with my own eyeballs that this one's like much bigger than the other ones that I've seen, but I've definitely seen where there's hundreds of fish in a tide line or washed up on the beach or whatever. And it's usually like bull reds and catfish or something, either gaff tops or hard heads. And kind of happens every year right around the spring, sometime in the spring. So,
well, and like we were saying earlier too, there's been a hard south wind to blow them all up. If it happened on the hard north wind, you would never see them. And it wouldn't be all over social media and all that. So
that's right.
Who knows about that?
I know we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. Sounds like we got a good lineup.
We do for sure, man. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. Let's go see what the Ultimate Beach Bum's been up to.
Ultimate.
Matthew Isbell, welcome back to the show, man. How you been doing?
Doing really good. Glad to be back. I'm glad Richard's here. He wasn't with us last time I was on the show.
He wasn't. Not the last couple times. We've missed him.
Yep.
Yeah, and part of being the Ultimate Beach Bum, like what I look to is if I can impress Richard. I've got some good news, Richard.
All right, go ahead.
You gave me a project a while ago, and I've worked on it, and I'm excited to share this news with you that I have learned to use a bait caster.
Oh, watch out!
Nice.
Hey, you want to know what's funny about the bait caster subject right now is I cannot use a bait caster right now. Yeah, I've got this thing in my left hand called trigger finger on my ring finger, and it just hurts like holy hell to grip a bait caster right now. So I'm all spinning rod right now. That's funny. You're picking up bait caster, and I'm regressing. I'm going back the other way.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I thought about you.
Yep, I've been going to the chiropractor and getting some acupuncture and doing some exercises and stuff like that. So hopefully I'll be ready for springtime wade fishing here before we know it.
Won't be long.
I know.
Time to get healthy.
What you been catching with your bait caster?
So I had to learn. I was kind of forced to, or not necessarily forced to, but I've always wanted to learn. And I feel like as being a complete angler, you just need to be versed in all the equipment. And I had a trip to Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee, and a lot of pitching and flipping, and I knew that the guys I was going with, if I was trying to keep up with them and just using a spinning reel, it would be a little difficult. So I bought my first bait caster, practiced as much as I could in the yard. And then I spent 2 full days of fishing on Lake Okeechobee with just a bait caster. And that'll definitely learn you up real quick out there on Okeechobee. So, it was a good time. We caught a lot of bass. It didn't catch anything big. Like the biggest bass I personally caught on that trip was like 2.5 pounds. But the winds were like really bad the 2 days that I was there. Like it was blowing like 20 miles an hour. And it was really hard to find clean water. And that's where only places we could catch fish. And the guys that I was with, like, they don't even live there. It's just a trip they make every year. So they fish there once a year. So they're not like experts on the lake or anything. They just have a few areas that they're familiar with. So we were kind of winging it for the most part, but it was a good trip. Caught some bass.
Did y'all do any punching? Do you know what punching is?
No, there was some thick stuff that you probably could have. I mean, we were mostly just like pitching in holes and stuff that were, not punching through the grass or anything.
That punching thing is funny. A buddy of mine who he's actually been to Okeechobee and done it before explained it to me one day about
like punching through the lily pads and
stuff.
Yeah,
you throw your lure way up in the air and it lands and pops through the grass or the lily pads, and you just basically sit there and fish in that one little spot, kind of jigging it back up and down. I'm like, all that on one cast, they're like, yeah, that's how it works. I was like, dang, they use these big long rods with like a lot of backbone and like 80-pound test line and stuff for ripping them out of that grass. But they catch some monsters down in Okeechobee. Like,
it's worldwide.
Yeah,
great, it's world known.
Yeah, great big ones down there. So
that's fun. Yeah, I've never fished it.
Yeah,
that's what I was hoping for. But I did catch a big bass on the trip. I actually caught one. I didn't have a scale, but based on my subscribers' average guess, me holding it was about 7 or 8 pounds. So which is like the biggest bass I've ever caught. But I caught it at the pond at my condo. So, I go to Okeechobee and catch a 2-pounder, but the pond's got the big ones.
Hey, whatever bites, whenever it bites, right?
Yeah, man, I'm not going to complain about that.
Okay, you got to be ready for everything.
Oh yeah.
What else you been up to?
Yeah, what else? Where else you been going, man? That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I actually really enjoyed the baitcaster. Like I'm super stoked that I feel comfortable with it and probably will use it even more.
Are you a left-hand reeler on the bait cast?
Yeah, I figured that was pretty standard. Let's see. No. Standard's right hand. So
Standard's
like
right hand, that's right.
I just went with the right hand. Like I reel left-handed with the spinning reel.
Me too.
But I wanted to learn and get comfortable right-handed with the baitcaster because I know that's kind of standard. So I try to be what's the word, ambidextrous?
Yeah, it's not really
amphibious.
It's not really ambidextrous to do it that way, though. I mean, I'm a right-handed person.
Me too.
And ever since I was a kid, I've reeled a spinning rod with my left.
Me too.
Turn
That's
with
the way
your
to do
left.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then bait caster or regular, conventional tackle, reel your right hand. So that's just being a regular person. I call all the other people in the world, they're goofy handed. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I cannot reel a spinning rod with my right hand.
This is a big debate, actually. In the fishing world, this whole thing. But I had never used a bait caster up until here recently. I think my mic's clicking. I'm trying to avoid that, so I'm trying not to move too much. But after using it, I kind of get it. Like I can see where it's more comfortable me being right-handed with a bait caster for whatever reason. Like it is more comfortable for me to reel with my right hand, but a spinning reel, I can't explain it. And I don't know why that the design of those two rods, it's comfortable to reverse that as a right-handed, but it is like, I mean, I don't know that I could use a bait caster and reel left-handed and be comfortable. I don't know why that doesn't make sense.
My problem is with the bait caster is when I'm using a spinning rod, like to work like a slick or a topwater, my right arm works way better. So when I have a bait caster, I'm holding it in my left hand and I'm reeling with my right. My left, I don't have the same twitches that I do with my right hand. So that's my biggest problem with that.
Sure. Yeah. I'm way more comfortable like if there's a lure that really needs to be worked, I pretty much have to use my right hand and a spinning reel. But like on a bait caster, I've used like straight retrieve stuff or just like, in Okeechobee, we were pitching into holes and like these bass would eat it.
All right.
And you're not really
slow bass stuff.
Yeah, you're not working it. You're just throwing a jig in there and letting it eat it.
Agreed. Well, what else, man? What you been doing?
Yeah. So, surf fishing, we're around here. We're getting very close. There have been a lot of redfish, and something that was really cool. We had a few opportunities, a few days here recently, where I was able to just walk the beach and you could actually see the schools of redfish. And they weren't like huge schools, but like they would be real close to the beach and they were just chilling. They weren't cruising. I mean, really just hanging out. And I'd see pockets of fish that would be like 3, 4 fish, maybe 1 or 2 here and there. And that's something that's really fun to do, is just walk the beach and sight fish when you get those opportunities. Of course, it's got to be calm, clear, and all that. And I've been able to do some of that, and just started really set rig fishing again, trying for pompano. It's getting right. A few have been caught in our area. They did have like a 1-day run of pompano east of here.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of them over there on 30A area.
It was 1 day. Like the day before, people will catch maybe 1 or 2 here and there. You hear about that 1 day. I think it was like a Saturday. Everybody just whacked. I mean, insane day. I actually went the next day on Sunday and fished the same stretch of beach over there that everybody was catching them the day before, and we didn't get a bite. And everybody else on that same stretch of beach, same story. Not a pompano was caught. And I knew several of the guys that were fishing that day, that same stretch, very, good at what they're doing. Like they knew what was up, and nobody was catching fish. So it was crazy. Just that like 1 day school of fish that came through. Everybody's getting excited. Like it's here. It's just kind of like, I think kind of a fluky kind of thing.
Ultimate, that's one thing that I always talk about with the month of March in particular, is it's a transition period. You have fish trying to come out of a wintertime pattern and get into a spring pattern. And that's what you will see, for me anyway, inconsistent fishing. When you're trying to do the shallow water thing, you'll catch them 1 day in a spot and then go back the next day, and then poof, they're gone. They're moved on to their next little haunt that they're going to be in, or the water temperature dropped just enough to push them back into deep water. Or, the one thing I've been noticing the past really about last 7-8 days has been these huge swings in the tide, where like a couple of days you have it where it's 2 feet high, and then the next couple of days you have it where it's 2 feet low. So just the inconsistency of the weather and the water temperature, spring is almost sprung, but it's not quite there yet. So I'm glad to hear y'all are having some of the same struggles the rest of us are.
That's one thing. Not there.
Talking about your redfish on the beach, I've been doing a little bit of that over my direction, over towards Dolphin Island, and that's been a ton of fun. What's been your go-to lure over there? I've got one.
So they're very hard, like sight fish and redfish, especially when they're not cruising. If they're just kind of chilling, whatever, it's a hard fish to catch. Like, well, at least it is for me. Maybe not for you, Richard. I wouldn't expect it to be hard for you. But I've thrown a lot of things, but what I've actually had the most success consistently on is the Salt Strong Slam Shady. It's a little paddle tail. It's like 3.5 inch, and it's a really good color. I used it a lot fishing the beach for flounder this past summer. Had a lot of success with that there, and I've caught like 3 sight fished reds now on just that Salt Strong Slam Shady off of the beach. And anything that I can get a redfish on the beach that's not like super active to eat, I feel pretty dang confident in the action and color and presentation of that lure. So that's, if I see redfish, if I'm spotting them, that's what I'm probably going to have tied on.
Yep. So I've had trouble like getting them to like the other day. I know we were seeing like bigger groups than what you're talking about, anywhere from about 15 to 30 fish in a group. And I was throwing like Fishbite, like the Fight Club, the scented stuff in front of them, and they weren't really keying in on that. And I don't know if it's because like I was getting my jig down on the bottom and kind of twitching it along or whatnot, and kind of needed enough weight, heavy enough jig head to make a good long cast out there in front of them. But I tell you, I tied on a couple of just old Johnson Sprite Gold Spoon. Yeah. And that seemed to be the trick. And I think what it was is that the cool thing about the spoon is that you can kind of work it up high in the water column and kind of burn it across them. And then they're either going to be real reactive to it or not, come up and blast it. Or if they're kind of acting a little screwed up, a little funny, you can slow that thing down and let it flutter. And then get it even on the bottom. you're almost kind of maybe just jigging it a little bit. And I don't know what they think a spoon is, if they think it's like a pogey or a menhaden or a finfish, or if they think it's a crab.
I was thinking crab.
Almost kind of looks like a crab too, like with their little swimmers in the back. So that really seemed to be the trick with some of our fish late last week. So that spoon was fun, man. I hadn't fished some spoons in probably since back in the fall.
It's Captain Bobby's go-to for redfish.
Oh
too.
yeah, he likes that spoon. That's kind of where I learned that trick from. It's
not hard to cast that thing a long ways.
No,
they weigh pretty good.
Yeah, I use either a half or a 3/4. I think it's a 1/2 ounce spoon, man. I feel like I can throw it as far as a slick lure.
Yeah,
it's
really far.
Yeah, the slicks have been working good for us on the redfish as well. But you would think the jig, like the scented jigs, would be money in the bank, and it's been tough with those. So I don't know. I'm always into giving them what they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I may have to try the spoon. I've caught one redfish. This was like a couple years ago on a gold Johnson spoon, and it was cruising, and it was a really cool experience because it was like almost on the beach. I mean, at the wave, even it was real calm, but the wave that pushed up, that redfish was like almost on dry sand. It was so close to the beach, and it was past me, and it was going away from me, and I threw past it and just brought that spoon right by it, and it turned around and ate. I just got to see the whole experience right there off of the beach, and it turned around and ate that thing. It was really cool, but I haven't used a spoon probably since then, so I need to try it again.
That's one thing I always really enjoy this time of year in March is those reds love to get on that beach. And they're not necessarily all bull reds. They're more like, I would just say your upper slot, like your 24 inch would kind of be on the small side, but you're generally not bigger than about 30, 32 inches. You're not usually catching those big 36, 44 inch ones like that. But it just amazes me how shallow they want to get on those bars sometimes. Like they'll literally get up and there'll be a school of 30 of them, like in a foot or in like a foot of water. You know what I mean? Like shin deep, ankle deep water almost. And they're usually really aggressive.
That's fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't see as large of schools as you. Now I was on foot, and I think I walked about 7 miles the day that I was walking and looking for these fish. And the one that I actually caught that particular day, I threw it about 3 or 4 different schools, but this was the largest school that I saw, and I think it was like 5 fish. Like that was it. And I've noticed, like, if there is a school with more fish, you definitely have a better opportunity of catching the onesie twosies. Those are definitely very difficult fish to get to eat sometimes.
Yeah, I think I've seen that same process happen for me several different times. And I think the thing is like safety in numbers. You know what I mean? When there's a big group of them milling around, they feel a lot more comfortable out there because, heck, the other day we were sight casting. And actually, this day they were kind of spooky for whatever reason. But, just like 100 yards off the beach was a bunch of dolphins cutting up right there. Yeah. And then, those dolphins probably could pick off a redfish fairly easily, Sure. So that could have been why they were acting a little spooky the last time I was out there. But definitely when there's a big wad of them, they don't shy away from eating. But when there are kind of like a single or a pair, or
can be super spooky.
Yeah, they can be. So
Richard, when you're talking about sight fishing these reds from the beach, and like Matthew was saying, that's a great point. I mean, Richard's 8 feet higher than you. You know what I mean, as far as seeing stuff on the bow of that boat. So are you looking for anything in particular? Are you looking for deep holes or sandbars or bait, or are you looking for anything, or are you just going to the beach?
They definitely do like some contour to the beach. The couple of areas I've been in, there's little pockets, little holes, and they're usually like, just say there's a bar and there's a hole in between 2 bars. They're generally going to be right around those 2 little intersections on the tips of those bars, or right down in that hole. If I can't really see all the way to the bottom of the hole, I usually make a handful of blind casts right in that little area before I keep
cover it all.
Yeah, trolling motoring along. But I tell you one thing I keep thinking to do, but I hadn't done it, is tie a topwater on, and see if they'll come up and eat a topwater, because redfish love a topwater, and they don't care.
That would be fun.
They don't care what time of day it is either. Like a speckled trout, you can throw a topwater in the middle of the day at a redfish, and they'll pick up and blast it. But speckled trout, they definitely want like some low light conditions. Seems to be when that's better.
Yep.
Matthew, kind of getting back on pompano. So pompano is about to start off. Is there anything in particular you're going to kind of be looking for when those guys show up, as far as like maybe picking your spot where you want to start out at? Are you going to be set rig fishing, jig fishing, natural bait, artificial bait, all of the above? What's going to kind of be your game plan here in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, definitely all of the above. But I gave a big clue already as to where you basically start with these fish. The migratory pattern, they're always going to see them sooner to the east of us. I mean, that's just
go east.
Historically the case. So, I mean, if you're itching to get on some fish and you're trying to be kind of first to, I mean, we kind of have that first pop of them. I mean, they're around and you can start catching them any day. Like, you could be out there and have a really good day, as long as water conditions are good. But I would definitely focus on east. I usually start out trying to find them and locate them using set rigs and dead baits, shrimp and ghost shrimp and your synthetics and, just bait and weight. And once I kind of start locating fish and seeing what they like and what areas they're hanging, that's definitely when I take the opportunity, if conditions are right, to tie on some pompano jigs and walk the beach and throw that. Or, sometimes they even get stupid and try to take a ladder out to the beach and try to sight fish them if conditions are right, just doing something different, kind of stupid. But yeah, the piers, like I know they also had a really good day the other day. I think Navarre Pier was lighting them up pretty good. Pensacola Pier had a really good day. So we haven't seen that like really good day in our area on the Alabama coast yet, but it's getting there. We're so close. I caught my very first pompano like 2 days ago this year. First pompano. It was like 9 inches maybe, but it was my first one. First one. And anytime you start seeing those small fish, like that's always the precursor to the run. I mean, you're going to see those really tiny fish first. Every year, it's how it's been for me. You see these tiny little fish, showing up about March. And then, once the larger fish show up, it's on.
I was looking at the forecast for this weekend. I think we're finally going to have some semi-consistent temperatures at least. That's got to help everything.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's been crazy. Like I think it was last Friday, it froze. And then Monday it was 80 degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's been all over the place. Crazy high, low tide, crazy high tides, crazy low tides. I think we just need to get some sort of consistency for all of this fishing to kind of even out a little bit.
Yep. I know one thing I definitely noticed is just as far as our surroundings go, driving around town and being out and about, like one crazy thing is like usually, like rule of thumb is when you start seeing the azaleas bloom, it's like time to go sheephead fishing, right? And then you see the dogwoods bloom, like generally like a month later in April, then it's time to go trout fishing or go chase ling on the beach or whatever, but like this year you have the azaleas and the dogwoods are blooming at the exact same time. So it's like I said earlier, about it, it's like all the fishermen are just as confused as the fish and the weather is,
So are the trees, apparently.
No, I mean, that's what I'm getting at, is everything's a little bit confused right now. So I think a little bit of consistency to the weather and whatnot is really going to kind of go a long way,
Got to.
Yep. So.
Yeah, for pompano, like if you have a way, I look at an app called Windy and it gives me water temps and stuff. And you can plug in the area that you want to look for specifically. But, once we start seeing like consistently water temps at about 68 degrees along the beaches, we've talked about that before, but that's kind of the target temperature for these pompano. And that's when we'll start really seeing those schools hot and heavy.
Yeah, that just kind of goes back to what we've been talking about with the inconsistency. I've seen water temperatures in the past week anywhere from 58 degrees all the way up to 70 degrees. You know what I mean? You got a 12 degrees.
Poor fish.
I know, so that's just it right now. But has there been any kind of consistency to anything else going on out there? Whiting happening, or have you heard a peer report from any of those guys?
I'm glad you brought it up. I did I even forgot because it's my least favorite style of fishing. Which is probably why not pier fishing, but sheep's head fishing. is my absolute least favorite. And I did go to the pier last week and caught some sheepshead, and many people have been catching sheepshead out there on the pier. So the sheepshead bite has actually been fairly consistent. So as a land-based angler, if you're trying to get on anything, you could at least go do that. But even the whiting, man, I mean, like the little bit of set rig fishing that I've been doing, you kind of always bank on, I can probably pick up a few whiting. But on the pier too this year, really weird. We generally see the really big whiting throughout the winter show up around the pier, and that's when a lot of the guys take their like 4-pound test, super subtle stuff, and they're fishing with either live shrimp or live ghost shrimp, and they just light of gear as possible off of the pier, and that's when you can almost you pretty much sight fish on these big whiting, and that never happened this year for our area. Don't know why. Some areas east of here, Navarre, they got to experience that. I know there was a lot of reports of this big whiting, same situation there, but for us, don't know why, but that never came through for us.
I know. It seems like it was more back in October, November timeframe, right when they seemed to come back. The whiting will school up better on the beaches. It seemed like it was good early, and then I heard kind of the same thing you're talking about right now, as far as like the wintertime bite, when that's usually something real consistent, was not. So they didn't really like. We saw them at some point, so it's not like anything's wrong with the fishery. I don't.
Sure.
But,
no. I'm not alarmed. It was just kind of odd, like. The last several years, I knew that you could go to the pier and catch some whiting, but that just wasn't the case. But during the winter,
too many people watching Bama Beach Bum on YouTube, huh?
Cleaned out the whiting. We've decimated the whiting population.
No way. What else have you been up to, man? What did we miss? Anything?
I've got. I don't really have a whole lot of trips coming up. I'm going in May. That's kind of my next big trip, going up to Cape Cod, and I'm going to be chasing some stripers. My goal for that is to catch one with my feet on the sand, a striper. So it's kind of a different thing, and I'm just implanting myself up there. I have no intel. I'm just researching it myself. I'm not going to be using a guide or anything. Just going, spending a week, and hopefully going to find a fish or two.
That'll be fun. Be looking forward to hear the results of that. Hopefully you have some good luck.
Yeah. That's what I like doing, man. I really like winging it. Just going somewhere and figuring it out myself. I have connections. I could reach out to people. I have people offer all the time, and I of course could hire a guide and all that. But like for me, it's just, and I feel like for what I do content wise, it just makes it a little more interesting to see me struggle and see me just try to figure it out and go through the process of, using your brain to find fish and figure it out.
Yeah. Well, it's always that much more rewarding too, to strike gold than it is to, hey, somebody tell you, oh, hey, go dig a hole right over there, and you're gonna get rich,
Right.
Right.
Well, I might could do that now. We're talking.
Yeah. If we're talking money,
Right. Fishing is a little different than a pot of gold.
But anyway.
Well, man, that's a good report. Matthew, if folks want to follow you on the YouTubes or Facebook and all that stuff, what's the best way to get up with you?
Yeah, it's Bama Beach Bum. You type it in anywhere on the socials, you'll find me. It's there.
It's very widespread.
That's right. There's plenty of content out there for you.
Sweet, we always enjoy it, as always, man. We look forward to hearing from you next time. Safe travels.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, guys, take a quick break and hear from a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Fishing Chaos. Fishing Chaos recently announced the launch of its new club module and a partnership with National Scouting Report to significantly enhance exposure, recruitment, and scholarship awards for high school anglers. NSR announced last month the addition of fishing to their already successful sports recruiting program. Fishing Chaos invites all high school fishing teams to create a free club on the Fishing Chaos platform. Clubs can hold tournaments within the high school team or invite rival clubs to compete in CPR, catch photo, release events, as well as live weigh-in events, as Fishing Chaos supports most any tournament formats. The addition of the new Fishing Chaos Club Management module allows coaches to easily communicate with the team about upcoming events. It automates the tracking of Angler of the Year or Team of the Year standings and collects angler results. Fishing Chaos will play a key role in recruitment by collecting data on tournament finishes. NSR will build angler profiles based on these results and other criteria important to college programs. If you're interested in setting up a free team club or a tournament, please contact Fishing Chaos today at fishingchaos.com or call Jesse Wilson at 256-508-1853. And also brought to you by Alabama Marine Resources Division. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers who harvest gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper that their catch must be reported through Snapper Check. This includes vessels, kayaks, and shore anglers who possess any of these reef fish. Reporting is mandatory and must be done prior to landing fish in Alabama, regardless of where the fish were caught. Anglers can report to Snapper Check online at outdooralabama.com or through the official Outdoor AL app. For more information about Snapper Check or any of the fishing seasons, please visit outdooralabama.com.
Man, it's always fun to talk to Ultimate, man. He's
Never know what that dude's gonna be doing.
I know he's a good dude, man. I just love following him and watching his story just progress and flourish and whatnot. But let's I guess we don't know where Pat's gonna be, but whether he's on the eastern shore in the Gulf of Mexico or
over here in our waters.
and on the west side. But how we doing today, Patric Garmeson?
Doing well. Always nice to get out there and have a guide trip, have some happy customers, especially when it's a little bit of a struggle bus bite, but jumped off the boat pretty excited about their next trip down to our area from Indiana. So guess that's all I can hope for as a fishing guide is folks anxious to get back for next year.
That's right. It's funny you say that. We were recording a Hunt and Land podcast earlier, and we were talking to a guy that connects hunters to outfitters. He's like the middleman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we were talking about, man. You can help a lot of things, especially as a guide. But necessarily, the fishing and the hunting isn't necessarily going to be jam up all the time. But
That's
all
right.
the other things in between are what makes a good guide a good guide.
That's
You have happy people, you're busting your butt, you're trying everything that you can. And sometimes they just don't cooperate.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Talking to you earlier, sounds like you had a tough trip of tough trip today. I've also had a couple of those here recently, and I just, to me, it's just one of those functions of the transition period we're in right now. I know just on my end, I've seen within the past week or maybe week and a half, I've seen water be a foot to 2 feet low, and then I've seen it be 2 feet high, and then we've had these maybe 12 degrees of temperature swing in a span of a couple of days. You're seeing water temperature sometimes that are like in the upper 50s, lower 60s, all the way up to 70 degrees, and so I feel like the fish are just struggling to find comfort, whatnot, not to mention all these crazy different wind directions that we're getting. You had all that southeast yesterday, big hard west wind today. Who knows what we'll be doing tomorrow and the rest of the week, but kind of looking long range, it looks like things are maybe going to kind of stabilize a little bit, which I think that's really all we need is just a little bit of stability with as far as the temperature and whatnot goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time we've kind of gotten through one of these miniature hurricanes that come through and it seems like a day or two later, things will kind of level out and fish cooperate a little better. But generally, if I've been able to find some pretty good quality water that hadn't been just like 4-foot seas the day before, I seem to be able to find the bite. But it seemed like today, like you said, it went from like southeast. And the only refuge I had was either to get into the rivers or canal or something like that, or fish the western side of the bay. And I did a little bit of all of that. Kind of felt like the canal was going to be my savior, and the water looked good in there. But man, we just couldn't get anything going in there. So then I pulled out and got into the bay, and the water was not what I would say ideal, but we did. We got a few puppy drum out of the mix. No redfish bites, no sheephead bites. Saw a couple of slicks pop up, and I threw a slick lure in the area while they were throwing popping corks, and I had one like pull, like it didn't bite it just like pulled the lure, and I was like, hey, y'all throw over there, and nothing happened. But yeah, it's been pretty consistently inconsistent for me. Where when it goes,
That's a great way to put it, right?
Yeah.
When it goes, when this wind and everything just gets really churned up, man, it just is like just pull your hair out trying to figure something out. And then like with what we had go through last night, I mean, I don't know how bad it rained around y'all, but it rained pretty good in Daphne, and it, the rivers and all got pretty beat up from all that rain. And it's like, that's not a good option. And then the bay's all beat up. So one of my customers hit me up this morning. He was headed out and said he'd report back if he got on something, and he reported back a 0 when he was putting the boat on the trailer. So,
Dang.
Misery loves company on some of these days. You know what I mean?
That's right. And I tell you, today's conditions right behind that big front, and I see this in the wintertime a lot behind all the fronts. The day after a front to me is the absolute toughest day to fish, is when you have these big weather swings. We probably had some low pressure yesterday kind of building, and then you have the front come through and have a bluebird day like that, and then the pressure comes back up, and that change has got to be tough on them.
Yeah, it's got to be. But on the lighter side and on the positive note, when I've been able to get out and I don't like digging into the doldrums of fishing. So the positive side of things is when I've been able to slip out in the front and get out in the Gulf, the sheephead bite has been really, really good. And I would say that right now it's in the catching. Like when we're leaving the dock and we can get out there, I'm telling folks we're going to be going catching. We're not going fishing. So it's pretty instantaneous once you mark those fish around the platforms or near shore structures, and you're marking them pretty heavy. I've found that kind of my sweet spot is at, say, 10 feet deep down to maybe 20 is like, and that seems to be where a lot of the fish are hanging. And then one of the things I have noticed is that if there's a bunch of spade fish chewing you up in that shallower range, go a little bit deeper and see if there's some sheephead down below the spades. A lot of like really small, like hand-sized spade fish that are like piranhas on your shrimp, and they just peck it to death like in just a few seconds. So you kind of, once you drop a few times and you kind of identify that your bite isn't a sheephead bite, try dropping it on down a little bit further. And if it's still spade fish, just move to a different section of the rig, or move to another rig altogether, is what I ended up doing the other day, where we pulled up to one of the platforms that was doing well for us on like Thursday or Friday or whatever day it was, and went back and got them pretty good the next time. And then the next time after that, it was a lot of spade fish. So we moved to a different platform and just started whacking them again. So anyway, that part of it's been really fun.
Yep.
And then
I've experienced the same thing. On these nicer days when you get out there, it's on fire, and heck, you really don't even need live shrimp to a degree. I was putting the dead ones on in the live well that were kind of even maybe pink from the day before, and they were chewing those up too. So, so that's been good.
Yeah. I was on the way to the island and nobody had live bait on the way down, and I stopped it, hooked up and snagged. They have these frozen shrimp packs, and I was like, well, this will be better than nothing. And heck, it was nice. I just opened one up and threw it on the front deck, and opened one up and threw it on the back deck, and they just take a shrimp out and break it in half, put it on the hook. I just told them, like, hey, just use just enough shrimp to cover the hook, and that's all you need. And they showed no resistance to the fresh frozen shrimp at all.
Heck yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing right now.
For sure, man. I know we've talked about it before, but it's probably been a while. It was probably last year about this time whenever we talked about your rigging for those. Just kind of walk us through your ideal setup on your rigging for those sheep's head.
Man, I like to try to keep it as simple and as lightweight as possible. I go with the braid to a monofilament 20-pound leader, and I use a 1/0 or even a 2/0 Kale hook. And I find that using like the 2-aught with these big, like when you're around a lot of these bigger fish, when there's a lot of them that are say 5 pounds or up to 9, 10, 11 pounds, having a bigger hook is not a bad thing. And that Kale hook, when it sets properly, that gap in that hook will wrap around that fish's jaw and just is like locked in place. It's almost locked in there so good that it's a nuisance to get it out of the fish, to get it unhooked, to go to fishing again. But it really locks in there, and it's all about having that gap in that hook, and then that 2-aught has a little bit longer shank to be able to actually unhook the fish. They're not really hook shy and leader shy at all. When they're feeding like this, and then I like to use a split shot or maybe 2 if I just need to add a little bit more weight. But ideally, I like for it to just sink slowly through the water column, because there's a lot of fish that'll be hanging up high, and some of those fish that are up higher can be a lot of your bigger ones, especially this time of the year. So I like to sink it slow. But if it's windy or if you got a little bit of current, just kind of play to what you need, to where it's not just drifting way off from where you're trying to fish. Sometimes having a lighter leader or a lighter weight will allow, say if you're tied up, so like we had a setup the other day where the winds were out of the east, but the current was going west to east. Having a lighter rig was that the current was actually pulling our bait closer to the platform and the structure there, versus if we would have been using, say, like a 1-ounce sinker or something, just because we wanted to use something heavy. The current wasn't strong enough to have pulled something that heavy closer to the structure where the fish were. So that's another advantage to having that lighter weight. I don't know what the size, like when I buy split shots, I'm just buying them at the bait shop, and I say, hey, give me like 2 packs of every size, and I just
whichever works.
And I just start playing around with it till I find one that works. And some of my customers are way more sensitive to being able to feel the bite, and I'll go even lighter with them. And the ones that can't really sense that bite or really feel the bait and feel what's going on, I'll go a little bit heavier with them. So there may be a little inconsistency from one rod to the next on my boat, but it's really based upon how my anglers are feeling the bite and feeling the shrimp down there.
I really like what you were just talking about with your hook selection there, using that Kale hook and even going a little bit bigger, because that Kale, you're exactly spot on with what I see and experience as well, that it always seems to get right there in that corner behind the jawbone, and you really don't get that many pulled hooks. If they get the hook down in their mouth, of course you reel them up sometimes and they're hooked real superficially or whatnot, but I really like that Kale. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I don't know why, but back in the day, I used to just use like the same hook I would use from speckled trout, which is like a number 8 treble, and man, it seemed like I used to pull fish off one after another, and then one day I tied on like a live bait J or a Kale, and hook ratio went through the roof. Not to mention I wasn't having reeling up squished up treble hooks from from those sheets.
They will flatten that treble hook.
No, man, it's amazing. I tell you what, I saw something pretty interesting the other day, last week, kind of right when this, the sheep had kind of started to show up. And I think you and I both went out there on the same day, and you'd had a real good morning, and I kind of had a little bit of a struggle with it. And I was getting eat up on live shrimp by bluefish, which is kind of a strange species to think about being around this time of year. And Patric, to a T, guessed exactly which rig I was at. He's like, oh, yeah, that one over there, it got the bluefish on it, But one thing I did pick up was there was another guide boat out there that I saw, and we were close enough I could hear them talking, and they were using crabs, fiddler crabs. Yeah. And they were catching those sheephead pretty good. And we were getting a sheephead, about every 5th or 6th bluefish, and it makes sense, I guess, that the bluefish were leaving the crabs alone, and on the shrimp, And that was kind of a little bit of a way to combat that. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know who that guide was. I've seen him around and whatnot, but anywho, that was pretty interesting little trick there, maybe for some of our listeners
that's
to
a great
pick up
tip.
on. Yeah, if you can get, because
if you go to that one bluefish rig,
if you end up at the bluefish rig,
you'll know
when you get there. Yeah. I blew through a 25 pack of hooks like I was going, like I was
might as well throw it overboard.
I just exactly. So dump them out of the pack.
Oh gosh.
You got it right on the crabs though. If I would say if anybody is just like, man, I want to make it just the absolute best case scenario, having different baits. I mean, I used to. We would go like when my dad would take us out, we knew we were gonna like daylight to dark it on sheephead. Man, we would go scour the east end jetties for hermit crabs, and we'd be out there digging up fiddler crabs and freaking scraping oysters off the seawalls and whatever else. And I mean, when we went sheephead fishing, we would have like 5 or 6 different bait types, and it would be often that one bait would stand out from the rest. It could have been oysters. It could have been the hermit crabs. It could have been fiddler crabs. But that was always our mission whenever we were going after them, like just, hell or high water, sun up to sundown kind of fishing. So definitely if somebody's going to just try to set in and make a day of it, having a bunch of bait, and what it'll do is it'll kind of help you from having to do a bunch of running around. Like I was mentioning about pulling up here and spade fish were tearing me up. Well, if you had you had the bluefish thing, if you had crabs, you'd be able to slide by those fish a lot quicker and easier, and probably just be able to stay in the same spot, keep catching your sheephead.
Yep, that's great advice, man. Since we're diving down deep on these lamb noggins, you said something a minute ago that sparked interest in my brain, talking about seeing those bigger fish up top sometimes, or, letting it float down past those bigger fish. Whenever you're setting up on a rig, are you trying to focus on the up current side, the down current side? Or are you just using your electronics circling this rig, trying to find those fish, or how are you how are you pinpointing those sheep?
A lot of it is visual at first. So if there's nobody on a rig, I'm going to pull up there and make a full circle around all the structures using side vision, down vision, and I'm going to be looking into the water with my eyes as well. So I'm going to be looking down, looking back at the machine, looking down, looking back at the machine until I'm either seeing fish flashing and swimming on the surface really good, or I'm seeing some good marks that are generally, like I said earlier, I want to try to find them where they're hanging, say, 20 feet and shallower this time of year in particular. And then when you go around a portion of the rig and you look down and you see 3 of them over there on a piling, and you look at your machine and it looks like a school of pogies down there, it's like, all right, yeah, this is the right spot. And then I just take and see how my setup is. Sometimes getting around those platforms with a trolling motor, at least in my experience, there's sometimes where they can get to wandering really bad on you, because if you're trying to hold really close to the rig, you'll hit that anchor mode and it'll be fine and dandy, and all of a sudden it goes to taking off and about to crash you into the rig and stuff like that. So a lot of times I like to try to set up where I can just tie up to the rig and allow that and just be able to tie up instead of relying on the trolling motor. But if I ran around and I found the school of fish was up current or upwind, and I can set the boat out where the trolling motor is going to behave properly, then I'll be using the trolling motor, or if somebody's dropping anchor or whatever. But I mean, that's it. I mean, that's exactly the process that I use to decide on how I'm going to fish. And there's not a cut and dry, pull up to this spot and do this every time. It's just not that easy.
Yeah, I'm with you on the trolling motor deal. Out there around those platforms can be,
especially if there's any little swell at all.
Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky, especially getting as close as you need to get to make a good presentation to the fish, without having the wind or the current just sweep your bait away from those rig legs. One thing I've noticed, with the trolling motor deal is my trolling motor likes to have a more southern view of the sky.
Those rigs will block that spotlight.
Yep. And if you're on like the north side of those rigs, you've got, some of that metal coming up, kind of blocking that little slight southern view to the sky. For whatever reason, that seems to be when
makes it all wonky.
Yeah, when my trolling motor wants to act up. So for whatever that's worth, I've definitely found myself tying up to them more and trying to figure out a way to do it that way, and that's the one thing too, like kind of look at this a little bit, two different ways. A bigger structure, you have more tie up points to where you can kind of set yourself up better to get your baits presented better. But the smaller platforms are usually, generally speaking, getting fished less. There's less pressure. So it seems like sometimes the bite's a lot better at some of those little bit smaller places. And heck, even some of those little pencil, like one, it's really 3 legs going down, but it's only one standing up. Sometimes those things are money in the bank, because people ride by and like, why would I go fish that little bitty thing over there?
I go fish this big giant one over here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go fish this great big one over here, but sometimes those are the money spots because, like I said, that's kind of everybody's mindset to a degree. Patric, have you been doing anything on redfish, or have you seen as far as our this big bull red kill that we've kind of seen happen? I know I've been catching some reds, but of course we just had this big kill. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that. I know everybody's kind of dying and itching to hear about it.
Yeah, so just prior to those fish starting to pop up, I had a really, really good trip in the bay where we found some bull reds feeding on the surface, not like this big giant school like just Dixie bar style, but they were there and we were able to keep circling around and catching them. Up until that point, red fishing had been pretty good to a degree. I mean, there were some days where we were having to really work for 2 or 3. Really felt like it was more work than it was worth. Overall, the red fishing has been a little bit funky and a little slower for me this spring. And then we saw a few fish around Dolphin Island the other day, and they weren't acting great, like seemed a little off as far as when we cast to them. There'd only be like one that was interested in eating. But as far as the redfish kill or whatever's going on, I've seen it several years in the past, and I've seen it happen more so in like April, but it always seemed to be like when the rivers are just staying high in the spring, when that Tom Bigby and Alabama River are staying really high and in the flood stage or near flood stage, just pumping just way more fresh water than we're used to into the bay. It seems like that's when those die-offs occur. And I've talked to some of our marine resources biologists, and I've heard them kind of theorize that it could be maybe some sort of freshwater borne bacteria or something to that effect. But the interesting thing is that it's bull reds and bull reds only out there floating around. And the last few times I've seen it, when I was trying to catch redfish, I felt like even the smaller redfish may have been affected as well. Like my redfish bite just was really, really tough for a couple of weeks whenever we were seeing a lot of those dead fish around. So that's about all I know, other than, it's sad. I mean, we were way further up into the bay today and saw bull reds, and my customer I was talking to said that they fished other parts of Mobile Bay today and saw bull reds dead all over the place. So, I mean, it's thousands of fish by all accounts of the different reports we're hearing. I mean, that's a lot of stock being eliminated. What have you heard, Richard?
Man, so Crystal Hightower and I had a long conversation yesterday about all this, and she's got some ideas about trying to figure out in the future why these fish have died, which really entails kind of having some watchdogs, having some people looking to find one that's either dying or kind of acting funky or something like that, to either get a live fish or a fresh dead one in there to go and do some different tests on them to try to, kind of put their finger right on why that fish, what the mortality of that fish was. This event, like you said, it's sad to see and it's terrible, but it seems like literally every year in the spring, sometimes, you had said something about April, and I already kind of feel like it's April weather almost to a degree, but every time this time of year we see a bull red kill. But it's like you said earlier, usually it seems like there's some catfish mixed in with it too. You'll see all the catfish kind of die and some bull reds die.
Mm-hmm.
But right now it only seems like bull reds, and it only seems like the same size fish,
which is interesting.
They are, and it's kind of a widespread deal. We're seeing them in the Gulf, seeing them up in the Bay, seeing them in Mississippi Sound, over there in the Eastern Shore,
Fort Morgan, Dolphin Island.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit all over the place. So who knows exactly? There was a bunch of theories as to what that was, but
no algae bloom, right? I heard that could have been an algae bloom, but they ruled that out.
Yep, that's right. And dissolved oxygen is good. We've had plenty of wind and tide movement and things of that nature. Hasn't been a significant temperature drop to kill any fish. There's a lot of other fish I would think would die to a temperature issue than a redfish. They seem like
it seems to be very specific.
That's right. So who the heck knows what's going on with them? There's a bunch of theories floating around out there, but
none of them are alarming.
No, not at the moment.
What you said, Richard, the watchdog, that is definitely one of the things that some of the biologists I've talked to said that if we could start trying to get a little bit of an idea of what's happening would be if somebody was to come up on a redfish that was dying. Like if it was swimming weird, coming into the surface, rolling up, any type of dying look about it, it would behoove whoever finds it to pick that thing up, call marine resources and freaking put it in a live well, try to keep it alive and try to get it to the biologist while it's still alive or nearly, or recently dead. That could really go a long ways, because once those fish die, their bodies start to degrade almost instantly.
Yeah,
so then
they
it
start decomposing.
Probably eliminates the pathogen that caused the live fish to die. So the autopsy process is pretty much compromised once the fish is totally dead and there's no way to sample anything off of live tissue.
Well, maybe with all our listeners and you guys out there all day, maybe we can get one.
Yep.
Keep your eyes out.
Yep. Crystal Hightower was very, she's trying to head up a plan to possibly put, like a watchdog group together, specifically probably some of the guides who are out on the water the most amount, to pick up one of these fish and try to get it to her some which way while it was, like what Patric was saying, either still somewhat alive and trying to live or whether it dies
small window
there or whatnot. Yeah. Just try to as quickly as possible, get in touch with one of those kind of folks to get it in. So who the heck knows? But like I said, it's kind of a cyclical thing. It's been happening every year on some scale. This is probably on one of the higher end ones that I've witnessed. Of course, I haven't seen a whole lot of these fish with my own two eyes. I just hadn't been bumping into one of those tide lines full of them, but I've seen plenty of the videos going on, plenty of the fish washed up on the beach and whatnot. So I know the degree that it's happening at. And kind of to Patric's point too about being on a few of these reds and kind of having a couple of them act funny. I saw the same thing, I caught them like real good late last week one day, like where they chewed the rod tips off and then came back to the same school of fish. Kind of had a little bit of trouble kind of getting them to eat every once in a while, or they were just super spooky. Who knows what this way the weather has been.
Right. Hard to pinpoint it.
It's kind of changing. They didn't really seem real apt to chew. They did one day, and then the next 2 days I looked at the same school. They were kind of acting a little funny, So who the heck knows? But I think it'll come back on around once this weather stabilizes a little bit, and hopefully, we just had all that southeast wind, maybe blew some good water in here, help clean things up a little bit.
Yep. Sometimes Mother Nature has a way of kind of hitting the reset button. So.
Yeah,
hopefully.
That's funny. That's funny. You said something about Mother Nature. I saw somebody on one of the groups post, "Who's going to clean up all the dead redfish on the beaches at Dolphin Island?" And I wanted to put so bad on there. Mother Nature usually takes care of that,
Yep.
crabs and birds and
circle of life.
Yeah, ants and whoever. You usually take care of that for us. But
definitely. Well, that's a great report, Captain Patric. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Uglyfishing.com. They can go there, check out my calendar. It's live. It's filling up. I did just have a date we moved a little further into the summer. March 31st just opened up, so I got that date. And a couple days in April and May still remain, but June and July is kind of where a lot of my people are looking on the calendar. You can go there, check out any of my social media links on there, or give me a call or shoot me a text at 251-747-1554.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate the report. Be safe out there, man. Keep whacking them. We look forward to talking with you next time.
Thank you, Butch. See you, Richard.
All right, bud.
Well, that was another awesome report, and it was brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available at select restaurants and can also be purchased by the public at Bon Secours Fisheries, Inc. and Ahi Seafood in Fairhope, Alabama. Call for availability. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. And also brought to you by the Hunting Exchange. In this day and age, we all know it's a struggle to sell hunting equipment on a large social media platform, and that's where the Hunting Exchange steps in. Hunting Exchange is an app for iOS and Android that gives you a one-stop shop to buy and sell your hunting gear. Whether you're looking to sell your bow, broadheads, technical apparel, stands, saddles, or anything in between, this secure platform allows you to buy and sell gear with confidence. As a buyer, each dollar you spend is insured by PayPal, and as a seller, there are no hidden charges like other platforms, and listing items is also free. Gone are the days of having listings removed from Facebook and worrying about being banned and removed from groups for wanting to sell something as simple as your bow or knives. So head on over to the App Store or Google Play and experience a new hassle-free way to buy and sell hunting gear by downloading the Hunting Exchange app today. And also CCA Alabama. A great way to support conservation projects like the Claude Petit Flounder and Speckled Trout Hatchery and the University of South Alabama Cobia Tagging Project is through the purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. You guys head over to Alabama Department of Revenue's distinctive license plate page at revenue.gov to get yours. All right, Captain Richard, let's head on down and get our last report, but certainly not the least report of the day. Let's see what Captain Dustin Bedgood's up to with Fairhope Fishhouse. Welcome back to the show, Captain Dustin. How we doing, buddy?
All good, guys. How are y'all?
All right, not too bad.
Can't complain. This will be about the only captain give me a run for my money on my beard game, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, I got it trimmed up a little bit right now. I can't shave it off.
Yeah, mine's trimmed up a little bit too.
Yeah, the last time I shaved it off, I didn't catch as many fish. So
I know, dude. I always feel like that's the damn thing for sure. I trim mine up. I have to draw the line, man. Whenever it gets long to where like it. When I'm running along in the bay boat at 50 miles an hour, it starts blowing up in my mouth a little bit, and I'm kind of chewing on my beard. I was like, "Oh, I got this is about time for a little trim," you know. But
yeah, I let mine get long because my wife never complains about it. So you know,
there you go.
It really doesn't. I don't ever think about it for a while until it starts doing it, like you're saying, and getting in my way.
Yeah. Before we get to the fishing report, you want to tell us a little bit about what you do with Fairhope Fishhouse over there and how you guys go about doing things?
Yeah, we, me and my business partner, Jake, we saw what needed to be changed in the fish business. There's a lot of dishonesty, a lot of, fish that get sold. It's not what it says it is or where it comes from. A lot of foreign fish is sold as domestic fish. And we just saw a need to change because locally, if you catch a fish and take it to a fish house, they don't give you anything for it. It's just they don't give you anything for it. There's not a lot of value in it because customers, they'll pay the same for a frozen imported fish as they will a local caught fish. And so we just felt like there needed to be a change. And, we started our business and, grew it and have grown it to, serve a bunch of local restaurants and all kinds of local chefs that we sell in New Orleans. And we're getting into shipping fish all over the place now just to expand our market without having to, because there's a lot of beef companies and stuff that they ship overnight. And we're going to kind of mimic that and do the same thing.
Yep. I saw one of those beef companies you're talking about. That's out of New York. I forget what the name of it was called. Something Lorraine Frida or something like that. And it was,
yeah, that's right.
I looked it up and it's pretty cool what they're doing, that they actually do ship it to you fresh, never been frozen. I was
listening to Hank Shaw's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Joe and I were guests on his show not too long ago, and one of his sponsors is I'm pretty sure, I don't want to misspeak, but I'm pretty sure it's a salmon company where they do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll overnight it.
Oh yeah, there's a big salmon company that it does that, and there's a few other companies that do it.
I think it's really cool what you guys do. How, you know, you're obviously over there on y'all side. You have set hours that you're open, that you can have walk-in business, and then you also have a delivery set up. And man, the really cool part about it to me, man, is that for folks who don't have the means to go out there and get one of these species of fish, you know, you're getting it basically right out of our own backyard and bringing it to people's homes.
Because where we live, it is ridiculous to get something imported, you know, but it is hard to find good local stuff.
And when Dustin was kind of talking about not necessarily knowing what kind of fish you're getting and all that, I don't know if anybody's seen Seaspiracy on Netflix or whatever, but man, you watch that documentary.
Make you think twice about buying that chunk at the market.
Yeah, man, golly, it's wild what goes into some of this. You know, there's like people who are like sold into slavery and stuff, like overseas.
There's Chinese boats that go out and fish for 6 months at a time.
Yeah,
and catch fish and fill that boat up, and they have other boats that come out to them and they offload to them. And those fish are just months old. They process them and then send them all over the place. And there's people that eat them and they think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, we get told sometimes that what it is they gas it with carbon monoxide to make it look that perfect color.
Pink. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen some of that on those Facebook page.
Me too. That was eye-opening.
Really eye-opening.
Yeah, when they gas it changes it.
Dustin, I've seen you also with some of your tuna before, where you run the wire down the
Iwajimi?
Yeah. What is it called?
Yeah.
Iwajimi?
Okay.
You do
that to all your fish, or?
We do that I don't do it to the swordfish because I kill them a little differently. I bleed them. I hadn't really tried to do it on them, but everything else, I mean, literally everything else you can do it to, down to a beeline.
Okay.
And it really makes a difference, especially if you're trying to get a long time. If you're trying to get that fish to last and keep the freshness for a long time, it makes the most difference.
Yep. AFCO just put out a bunch of information on that, to where they're selling some of those kill wires and whatnot.
Yep, I've seen that too.
They sell the kit.
Yeah, and man, I nerded out on it for like 30
It makes a big difference.
30 minutes watching all the videos and reading up on it, man. It really makes a lot of sense what they're talking about, you know, shutting down that electrical system,
nervous system
Man, I've been sword fishing mostly, doing a lot of nighttime fishing and daytime. The last trip I went on was a really good bite. It was on the moon, and we caught several fish that night. And then the next morning, right there, before lunch, we went through a stretch. We caught 4 or 5 fish in an hour and a half. One of them was, around 200, maybe 215. I didn't weigh the whole fish. We just weighed the cores or whatever. But the bite got real hot and it was on fire. I didn't have any baits rigged. I would drop. We caught a fish. I rigged a bait, dropped back down, and within probably 5 minutes of landing the first fish in the boat, I had rigged a squid and we were back down and tight.
Wow.
It's just they were chewing, and if you can get the baits back down there to them, they'll keep eating. And we were fishing multiple lines, and so that helps you keep a bait down also. The fishing multiple lines definitely, improves your chances with those fish, because the more baits you got down when they start biting, the better chances you're going to have until you get doubled up, and then you got a lot of confusion going on, but it's fun.
You mentioned fishing the moon, and that being an incredible trip. I mean, what do you attribute that trip to? And did y'all specifically, go out that night because of a certain condition, or was it just a weather window? Why do you think that trip was so hot?
It was because of the moon. I mean, that's why I was there. I mean, I've been waiting for this moon. I mean, since, a couple of full moons ago, when there's certain moons now that it's not necessarily on the full moon. It could be, a night or so before, but if everything lines up, I'm going to be there, even if it's rough. Because, I mean, recently, at night, especially that night bite, it's real good. I mean, you can be ready with the Fishhouse, we're fishing some buoy gear. It's hand line gear, so you hand line the fish.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can put out 10 baits. And on the moon, all 10 baits will be tore up before I can get back and check the other one.
Wow. You
may not catch those fish, but you can tell that fish was there, he was there. It's just you didn't hook him, but they're really active on that moon, and they come up shallower. and what I think.
That's interesting. I remember having Angelo DePaola on here. He's done a lot of sword fishing over the years, and he was kind of talking about one thing he likes to do on the full moon is set his baits a little deeper because that light transmits through the water column a lot deeper, you know. So like just on say like a new moon phase, he'll fish them like, you know, 250, 300 and shallower, and then fish as deep as 500 feet like on a full moon and whatnot. So that's interesting. You like it a little higher up the water column for on that moon.
And it's probably a little different than rod and reel fishing, because I'll also while I'm fishing the buoys, I'll have the rod and reel fishing out too, and I'll be fishing those, you know, a little deeper. But you know, I just had this conversation with somebody. You know, I think we catch a lot of small fish at night too. I think that I should always be fishing. I should always be fishing deep even at night, because it just makes sense that those fish they're still down there eating. It's not like they quit eating down deep.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If they're biting like that in the daytime down deep, they're still gonna be down there at night biting, I think.
Right.
You know, most people are not fishing down that deep at night.
That's cool. Before we jumped on recording here, we were chit-chatting ahead, and you said something about fishing some new areas. Maybe give folks an idea of maybe something you look for as far as going and finding a new area. Everybody kind of knows the hot spots, you know, like the ditch and the spur over there off Dustin, and then some of that stuff that's back to the west. But you know, maybe give folks an idea of something to, you know, as far as finding a new area, what you're looking for. You know, are you fishing for looking for water depth or just a little bit of bottom detail there? Using electronics at all as far as you're looking around?
Yeah, I'm definitely always using the electronics, looking for bait, looking for, you know, any kind of change on the bottom. But it also seems that, because really I used to fish at the, you know, the places where everybody fishes, and, you know, I could sit out there all day by myself. Literally people would go by, you know, every once in a while somebody would be around there fishing, mostly people just there up shallower, you know, bottom fishing, not a lot of people around. Now, of course, it's grown a lot, and there's people everywhere at those typical spots on some of these summer days, especially. And I just decided that on them same days, I'm just going to get up in there and fish beside them. And then on the days when nobody's out there, I'm going to go to my new spot.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about anybody seeing me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I don't think that it's a bad thing that there's a lot more people getting into it. I don't have a problem with it being people there. I just, you know, everybody, it's so hard for people to go out there and to go somewhere besides those known spots.
For sure.
They just feel like, you know, I'm going out there, I got to go to where everybody else is going and getting them. I get a little bit of gratification out of catching them where there's nobody around.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of areas. I mean, all you really got to do, I think, is just think about the depth that you're catching those fish at in the known spots, and just kind of start exploring. I mean, we got a lot of area that, you know, eventually it falls off in that same depth range all along the shelf.
Right.
And, you know, most people are so dependent upon these mapping systems that that's the only places they're going to fish is where that map tells them to.
Yep.
Instead of like paying attention to your electronics when you're transiting or something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, and also at night a lot of times I just kind of, if we're not fishing a certain thing, I just kind of cruise around areas and just let the boat ride, and we just watch the electronics at a slow speed and just kind of look and just see what I see in certain places, and it really doesn't take a whole lot to hold those fish.
Mm-hmm. You talking about as far as like
really,
structure on the bottom, as
far as like a contour on the bottom?
Yeah, just a contour on the bottom, an edge, any kind of, you know, a hump, any kind of hump on the bottom where the current breaks over it or something. I mean, it doesn't take much, and there'll be fish there. But also all these, you know, I think all these shelf rigs for sure, those swordfish are going to be close to them because they're going to be feeding around that rig. Those rigs hold everything. They don't just hold if the sharks and stuff are there, the swordfish are probably there too.
Yep, I agree with that.
They're not worried about them sharks. They'll get up in there and eat with them. If there's food there, they're going to be there probably eating. You may not be able to catch them because of all the sharks. That's what we run into a lot at night. We catch a bunch of sharks.
Yeah, I'm sure. There's plenty of those
especially
out there.
closer to the rigs. Oh yeah, no shortage of the sharks. But I think I think there's a lot more places to fish, than people. Who knows? We may not. There's so many places out deeper too. We're all fishing in the same depth of water. The deeper you go and the deeper you fish. Even when I go out deep and fish, I'm still fishing in the same water column.
Right.
I'm still only fishing a certain depth. I'm not exploring anything deeper. Just because you don't want to be sitting out there fishing somewhere where there may not be any fish and you're not willing to wait for that bite.
But you're right. There's a lot of Gulf out there.
Mm-hmm. Golly,
There's a lot of it.
It's very expansive, and there's very few people getting that far out all the time. You know what I mean? That are willing to go do like kind of what you're talking about,
Search and destroy.
So yeah, getting out there and looking around, doing their homework, and spending a lot of time out there to find these certain types of contours and whatnot. When you're talking about like a finding a bump or a contour or something like that, what are you looking for as far as like the most bottom relief? Like, is 50 foot a lot for you, or is it more like 100 foot as far as a contour change?
I haven't found a whole lot of places where there's a contour change of a drastic change of 100 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Most all of them are less than that.
Okay.
Or they're gradual. Most of them are going to be less than that. There's not a whole lot of places where you just like a sheer fall off.
Mm-hmm.
I think over on the East Coast, those guys and I know some guys around the mouth of the river on the west side of Venice, especially. They have places that are just like rocks, big rocks. Is what it seems like. Almost like you're grouper fishing on a big rock.
Yep.
You just kind of go up on it, and they're catching them in those places too.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of like a blackfish or a ling, man. You just absolutely never know where one's going to show up. Like boom, like if they're going to be.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of swordfish out there. I think these long line boats that are fishing out way deep are catching some really big fish. We have some really big fish in the Gulf. I mean, I got to witness those guys catch that 500-pounder this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt there's some giants here. I'm just, we just got to keep, exploring to find where they're at.
Yep, and take care of them too. We were talking about earlier. There's a bunch more people fishing. I mean, you got to be careful with the small ones, and like you were saying, you were catching a bunch of small ones. I think that's a good thing. I mean, it is a big Gulf, but you can outfish a pond no matter how big it is.
Yeah, golly.
I think we're the nursery pretty much for it. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand, I think there's plenty of swordfish in my opinion. The thing about it is if we don't catch our swordfish the allotted amount, which we never get close to, if we don't catch our swordfish, they'll just give them to another country that will most definitely catch them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
They're controlled federally, and they'll give those to another country, and they will most definitely catch them. It may be out of their part of the world, but these swordfish swim all over the place. They're not. I don't remember exactly the numbers on it, but I know Michael Pittman tagged those fish over there at the mouth of the river, and one of those fish was caught again in the same spot. Like I don't remember. I want to say it was 500 days later, or maybe it was 800 days later, and then another fish he tagged in the same spot was caught in Nova Scotia.
Oh wow!
Golly, that's wild. These pelagics move. Heck, there was blue marlin that just caught in the up there in North Carolina,
5,500 nautical miles.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean that's wild to travel that. You think about a single fish traveling that far.
That's crazy.
It is 5,500
and
miles.
It only took him it was only a year that
Yeah, he crossed the equator. Didn't he cross the equator? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean moving. And who knows? I don't know how long it actually took him to swim that far. He might have just been there in one spot for a while and just left one day and swam all the way there.
True.
Who knows how long it would actually take that fish to get there?
Yep.
And that's crazy to think about. That's cool stuff.
It is.
Maybe we can start tagging some of these swordfish around this area and see where they're going and if we have any resident fish, etc.
That'd be cool. I got an idea for the pop-off tags. Would be cool. The swordfish swim so fast. I think it'd take a really good anchoring system.
It would. And they're so crazy, man.
To keep the tag in there, you know what I mean? But it'd be really cool to set them. If you could set them like 6 months from now and a year and kind of space out some tags for when they're going to pop off, and then
get the location and all the
it's
data.
going to be crazy to look at the data.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like temperature changes. You know what I mean? Like what the temperature is down on the bottom to the surface, and then
a lot of cool stuff.
Oh my goodness, it'd be unbelievable. You know, that's incredible to think about, one swimming from Gulf of Mexico to Nova Scotia. Golly, I mean that's a
haul.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you think about the change of the ecosystem too. You know what I mean? That they're living in. You know, unbelievable. I mean, Nova Scotia, that's a long way from here.
Yeah. I guess it's the kind of the same trick that the bluefins make.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true. Very cool stuff, man. That's a great report, Captain Dustin. Thanks for joining us today, man. If people want to patronize the Fairhope Fishhouse, what's the best way to get up with you and get some fresh fish?
They can find us on our website, or they can call me directly at 251-377-7135, you know, for information on the fish house and information on fishing charters.
Very cool, man. We appreciate it. We look forward to talking with you next time, buddy. Be safe out there.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a few minutes to check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Riccadoni Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Riccardoni. He provides services for all ages and accepts most dental insurances. Do not let an achy tooth ruin a day on the water. Call today to book an appointment at 251-342-6672. And also brought to you by L&M Marine. L&M Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoon boats, to bigger bay boats and offshore hybrids. L&M Marine LLC prides itself on its customer service and knows how important it is to have someone you can trust and to be taken care of. They are locally owned and regularly support the community. L&M Marine provides superior customer service and has an entire team that consists of professional sales members, finance experts, service technicians, and a knowledgeable parts and accessory staff to support you. Go visit their friendly, reliable, and experienced staff, now located only 6 miles north of I-10 at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or give them a call at 251-937-1380. And also, Sam's Stop and Shop. Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Sam's also has tackle experts and podcast contributors Chris Becce and Dusty Hayes on hand to answer any questions you may have about any type of local fishing, and can also repair your rods and reels if necessary. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. All right, Captain Richard, you know we got to do What Did You Learn, man? What'd you pick up from today? A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, a whole lot going on there, man. I really enjoyed that last segment with Dustin there. It's really neat listening to how they do things different. You know, they found a little niche market over there, you know.
For sure. And it's a great thing.
It is, man. Just to think, man, you can get the freshest quality fish, you know, and they're making videos and showing you how they're doing it and whatnot, and taking care of the quality of the fish and all that. And that's just pretty cool. You know,
it's a big deal.
Not really. No, there are a lot of other fish markets in our area that are doing something not near on the level that they're doing it, you know, so that's really, really neat. But man, what I learned, you know, same thing we've kind of been talking about. I've got this transition phase. It's obviously working really good on this moon phase deal that Dustin's figured out offshore on swords,
yep.
Which is cool, you know, and that, I tell you, that just comes with experience. You know what I mean?
Being out there, time on the water.
Yeah. Time on the water, knowing where to be when.
Log books.
Yep. Knowing where to be when. Yep. And you said logbook. That's a real good point. Definitely something I've been paying attention to as I've gotten into the doing some of that sword fishing is logging that moon phase and
he was talking about things lining up. He knows what's lining up.
That's right. And that just takes experience, and nobody's gonna hand that to you. You know what I mean? That's something that's got to be learned and done on your own. You know, one thing Wesley Hallman's one of his little sayings he's told me in the past is the hardest fish to catch are another man's fish. You know what I mean? And getting out there and figuring it out on your own and putting your own puzzle together is the best thing you can do versus kind of, you know, chasing things around to a degree. But yep, it's springtime. Everything's coming together. Seeing a little bit of inconsistencies here with fishing, you know.
I think Pat said it perfect.
What?
Consistently inconsistent.
Oh yeah, consistently inconsistent. That's right. But
that was a pretty good sum up.
That's just part of it, though. That's just absolutely part of fishing in March. You're gonna have like some really, really banner good days. Captain Bobby and I compare notes all the time, and he's had some really good trips, and he's had some tough trips, and I've done the same, and so has Patric. Here in the past couple of weeks. You find a lot of daylight some days, find none the next, the others. So, but I really think is looking forward, the temperature and everything's going to kind of level out, and hopefully we just need a little bit of consistency to the weather. And I think the fishing will kind of take care of itself.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I might go back, and I'd be curious to listen to this week's show last year, in the year before, even to see if there was a pattern at all, if we were still singing the same kind of weird, inconsistent blues.
Yeah, it always seems, like I said, it always kind of seems the same to me, as I've been kind of chit-chatting with customers and anglers and folks at the dock and everything. Yep, it's March. It's inconsistent like always. It's just it's that transition month, and usually the thing that's kind of saving us this time of year is the bull reds and the sheephead. But of course, you got the weather to deal with and whatnot. So because it likes to blow in the spring, as we know. So you got to just kind of take your opportunities as they present themselves.
Got to go fishing.
That's it.
I picked up big time from Dustin was the search and destroy kind of deal. Go exploring, spots are spots. I mean, where the hot spots are for those kind of fish, but go find your own fish. I think that'd be really cool.
Yep. That's
turn on your bottom machine and put out some wahoo lures or whatever and let her roll.
That's it. Cruise around. Yep.
It's the only way you're going to find it.
Yep. You can cover a lot of ground doing a little trolling like that, especially, like what he was kind of talking about with the maps, that they show you a lot, but they don't always show you everything. Getting in that right depth area on that contour and following it along.
Yep.
You got a real good shot at maybe catching a wahoo, and then also finding something. And I tell you, the thing about the sword fishing deal that's so cool too is a lot of times if you do find something kind of cool, man, I can't tell you how many times we ever made a drop, and like as soon as the bait comes off, boom, you're bit.
Yep.
It doesn't take a whole lot of time
there's fish down there usually.
Yeah, to make a short drift across something or whatnot. Right. And
it's a great point too.
Yep. Just see what happens, man. You never
like I said,
know.
Let's go fishing.
You gotta go to know.
Gotta go to know. So, all right, man. It's been fun today.
Yes, sir, man. I appreciate you having me over here, man.
Folks want to get up with you and book an inshore or an offshore trip. What's the best way to get in touch with Captain Blood?
Yep. Look me up on Cold Blooded Fishing. Telephone numbers on there, 459-5077. We're on Facebook and Instagram. That's
all of them.
Yep. That's ways to get a hold of. I'm not TikToking like Captain Patric yet, but one day.
Maybe not.
He got a little millennial in him, I guess.
He does. He's very ambitious on the technology.
Oh, yeah.
Well, man, I enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me today, Cap.
Yeah, buddy. I look forward to the next one.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a quick break. Check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Photonis Defense. Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. The ultralight, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest image, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PD Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness. And also brought to you by Foster Contracting. Fortified Roofing Pros. Do you need a new roof? Do you have wind or hail damage? You may qualify for a free roof. Foster Contracting will inspect and provide you with an estimate, stress-free, and they will handle your claim with your insurance. Your roof is your first line of defense this storm season. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your day. Foster Contracting has you covered. Check them out at www.fortifiedroofingpros.com or give them a shout at 251-447-2978. That wraps up another great show, folks. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. We'll talk to y'all next week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. And also brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. And also brought to you by BoatersList.com. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Sign up at BoatersList.com to find a company to work with on your next boat project.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report brought to you by me, Angelo DePaola, The Coastal Connection. Find us online at thecoastalconnection.com.
And also brought to you by Bahio Sunglasses. See more, catch more. Experience the clearest lenses on the planet with Bahio Sunglasses. Try on a pair at your local retailer or check out BahioSunglasses.com to see for yourself. And also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA at nationalland.com.
And also brought to you by Fishbites. Are you tired of stinking baits? Fishbites don't stink or leave a stink on hands and everything else. Won't come off the hook during a hard cast or in rough waters. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charts, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing chart since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. Also brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters.